At my graduation dinner, surrounded by extended family celebrating my summa cum laude business degree, my mother looked me dead in the eye and said those words that would haunt me forever. "You will never be anything, Scarlett. Your brother is the real success in this family." I nodded calmly, letting her finish her cruel speech about how I was just a backup plan, how the family business would never be mine. But what she did not know was that I had already discovered her 20-year embezzlement scheme. The stolen money, the forged documents, the way she had been systematically destroying our family legacy while favoring my golden child, Brother Marcus. That moment of public humiliation was about to become her greatest mistake. Before we dive into this twisted tale of family betrayal and the sweet revenge that followed, I want to know where you are watching from. Drop your location in the comments below and smash that like button if you are ready for a story that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about family loyalty. Subscribe, because what happens next will blow your mind, and trust me, you do not want to miss how this family drama unfolds. The humiliation at graduation dinner was just the beginning. Growing up as the daughter of Margaret Whitmore, founder of Whitmore Consulting, I always believed our family success story. Mom built $1 million business from nothing, or so she claimed. My brother Marcus was groomed as the heir apparent while I was treated like an afterthought, pushed toward a traditional business degree while he got the family connections and insider knowledge. But 3 months before graduation, everything changed when I started my senior internship at Henderson & Associates, a forensic accounting firm. My supervisor, Janet Rodriguez, assigned me to analyze suspicious financial patterns in small family businesses. The irony was not lost on me when I discovered that one of our pro bono cases involved investigating embezzlement schemes that matched exactly what I had been noticing in my own mother's company records. It started innocently enough. During Christmas break, I had offered to help Mom organize her home office files. She was always complaining about being overwhelmed with paperwork. So I thought I could surprise her by creating a digital filing system. What I found instead was a sophisticated web of financial deception that had been operating for over 2 decades. The first red flag was the dual set of books. Hidden behind her main accounting software was a secondary system that tracked completely different numbers. Revenue was being systematically diverted through a series of shell companies, all registered under variations of our family name. Whitmore Holdings, W.M. Enterprises, Margaret Holdings, LLC. Each company served as a funnel to redirect money away from the main business and into personal accounts that only Mom controlled. But the deeper I dug, the more sinister it became. Our family business had not been built from nothing. Mom had inherited a substantial trust fund from her deceased parents, money that was supposed to be divided equally between her and her sister, my Aunt Patricia. According to the original trust documents I found stuffed in an old shoebox, Patricia was supposed to receive $500,000 when she turned 30. She never got a penny. The forged documents were masterfully crafted. Mom had created fake death certificates for Patricia, claiming she had died in a car accident in 1998. Patricia was very much alive and living in Oregon, working as a struggling artist because she believed her parents had left nothing behind. Meanwhile, Mom had used Patricia's inheritance money as seed capital for her business empire, then spent 25 years systematically stealing from her own company to maintain a lifestyle that was built on lies. The pattern was always the same. Major client payments would be recorded accurately in the official books, but then dummy expenses would be created to justify transferring that money to the shell companies. Marcus was unknowingly complicit because Mom had been training him in the official accounting system, not the shadow operation. He genuinely believed the company was struggling and that his inheritance would be modest. What made it even more heartbreaking was discovering that Dad had known about some of it before he died 5 years ago. I found his handwritten notes hidden in his old desk, documenting conversations where he confronted Mom about missing money. His final note, dated just 2 weeks before his sudden heart attack, read, "Confronted M about Patricia's money again. She promised to make it right after Marcus graduates. I pray she keeps her word. The guilt is eating away at our family." But Mom never intended to make anything right. After Dad's death, the theft actually accelerated. She had been taking advantage of Marcus's trust and my perceived incompetence to cover her tracks more boldly. The company was hemorrhaging money, not because of market conditions, but because she was essentially robbing her own business to fund her extravagant lifestyle and secure Marcus's future through illegitimate means. The final piece of evidence came when I cross-referenced the financial records with real estate purchases. Mom owned 4 properties that Marcus and I knew nothing about. Beach house in Malibu, mountain cabin in Aspen, luxury condo in Manhattan, and a sprawling ranch in Texas. All purchased through the shell companies, all maintained with money stolen from the family business and Patricia's inheritance. When I tried to process what I had discovered, the magnitude of the betrayal was overwhelming. This was not just financial fraud. This was a systematic destruction of family bonds built on lies that had shaped our entire lives. Marcus's confidence and my self-doubt were both products of artificial scarcity and engineered favoritism. Mom had made us compete for scraps while she hoarded the feast. The graduation dinner insult suddenly made perfect sense. Mom was not just being cruel for the sake of it. She was actively working to ensure I never gained enough confidence or family standing to investigate her affairs. By keeping me insecure and focused on proving my worth to her, she maintained control over the narrative and prevented me from asking the right questions. But now, I had the answers, and I had the evidence. 20 years of bank statements, forged documents, real estate records, and communication logs that painted a clear picture of elaborate fraud. The question was no longer what had happened. The question was what I was going to do about it. Armed with irrefutable evidence of Mom's decades-long fraud, I knew I needed to proceed carefully. This was not just about family drama anymore. This was about criminal activity that had destroyed multiple lives and stolen hundreds of thousands of dollars. I spent 2 weeks meticulously organizing every piece of evidence into a comprehensive case file that would stand up to legal scrutiny. My first step was reaching out to Aunt Patricia. Finding her contact information required some detective work, but social media eventually led me to her art studio in Portland. The phone call that changed everything happened on a rainy Tuesday evening in April. "Patricia, this is Scarlett, Margaret's daughter," I began hesitantly. "Oh my goodness, Scarlett, it has been so long. How are you, sweetheart?" Her voice was warm and genuine, completely unaware of the bombshell I was about to drop. "Patricia, I need to tell you something that is going to be very difficult to hear. Your parents did not die broke. They left you a substantial inheritance that Mom stole." The silence on the other end of the line stretched for what felt like hours. When Patricia finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "What are you talking about?" I spent the next hour walking her through everything I had discovered. The trust fund documents, the fake death certificates, the shell companies, the real estate purchases. With each revelation, I could hear Patricia's breathing become more labored. 25 years of struggling financially, believing her parents had left nothing behind, when in reality, she should have been set for life. "Scarlett, are you absolutely certain about this?" she asked finally. "I have documented proof of everything. Bank records, property deeds, the original trust documents. Patricia Mom stole over $500,000 that was rightfully yours, and she has been using your money to build her business empire." What happened next surprised me. Instead of breaking down or becoming angry, Patricia became laser-focused and strategic. "We need to involve law enforcement immediately. This is not just family drama, this is criminal fraud on a massive scale. But first, we need to secure all the evidence and make sure Margaret cannot destroy anything. Patricia's reaction gave me the confidence I needed to take the next crucial step. I contacted my internship supervisor, Janet Rodriguez, and explained the situation. Janet immediately recognized the severity of what I had uncovered and connected me with Detective Sarah Morrison, who specialized in white-collar family crimes. Detective Morrison was a no-nonsense woman in her 40s who had seen every type of family financial fraud imaginable. When I presented my evidence during our first meeting, her eyebrows raised higher with each document I shared. "Scarlett, this is one of the most comprehensive fraud cases I have seen from a family member. The documentation you have gathered is extraordinary." "How long did you say this had been going on?" "Over 20 years, I replied. "And Detective, there is something else. I think my father knew about it before he died. I found notes where he was confronting my mother about missing money." Detective Morrison leaned forward. "Do you have those notes?" I handed her Dad's handwritten documentation. As she read through his final entries, her expression became increasingly serious. "Scarlett, these notes suggest your father was planning to expose this fraud. Given the timing of his death, we may need to look into whether his heart attack was as natural as everyone assumed." The room seemed to spin around me. "Are you suggesting that Mom might have—" "I am not suggesting anything yet, but we will definitely be requesting an autopsy review as part of our investigation. These cases often involve more than just financial crimes." Detective Morrison explained that building a criminal case would take time, but she assured me that the evidence I had gathered was more than sufficient to begin formal proceedings. She also warned me that I needed to be extremely careful about how I interacted with Mom and Marcus moving forward. "Your mother cannot know that you have discovered her scheme until we are ready to execute search warrants and freeze her assets. Any indication that she is under investigation could result in evidence destruction or flight risk. Can you handle maintaining normal family relationships while we build this case?" The idea of pretending nothing had changed felt impossible, but I knew it was necessary. "How long will this take?" "With the evidence you have provided, I estimate we can have warrants ready within 6 weeks. But Scarlett, I need you to understand something. When this comes out, it will destroy your family as you know it. Your mother is looking at serious federal charges. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about the graduation dinner humiliation, about Patricia struggling for 25 years, about Dad's suspicious death, about Marcus being manipulated into believing lies about our family's financial situation. "Detective Morrison, my family was destroyed a long time ago. I am just bringing the truth to light." Over the following weeks, I walked a tightrope between gathering additional evidence and maintaining the facade of normalcy. I continued attending family dinners, making small talk with Mom about my job search, and listening to her criticize everything I did. But now, her words bounced off me like water off glass. I knew exactly who she was and what she had done. The hardest part was watching Marcus. He genuinely loved Mom and believed in her version of our family story. He had no idea that his entire inheritance was built on theft and fraud. When he talked about his plans to expand the business or his gratitude for Mom's mentorship, I felt sick, knowing how much his world was about to shatter. But Patricia and I had made a pact. Justice for Dad, justice for the stolen inheritance, and justice for all the years of emotional manipulation that had kept our family trapped in Mom's web of lies. The criminal investigation was moving forward, and soon Margaret Whitmore's empire of deception would come crashing down. As Detective Morrison's investigation gained momentum, I realized that taking down Mom's criminal empire would require more than just law enforcement. I needed allies who understood the full scope of her manipulation and could help ensure that justice extended beyond criminal charges to include financial restitution and family healing. My first crucial alliance came from an unexpected source, Marcus himself. Despite my fears about his loyalty to Mom, I decided that he deserved to know the truth before the police raids began. The conversation that changed our sibling relationship forever happened during what was supposed to be a casual dinner at his apartment. "Marcus, I need to show you something, and I need you to promise me that you will look at it with an open mind," I said, pulling out a folder containing copies of the most damning evidence. "Scarlett, what is this about? You have been acting weird for weeks." I took a deep breath. "Mom has been stealing from our family business for over 20 years. She stole Aunt Patricia's inheritance. She may have been involved in Dad's death, and everything we believe about our family finances is a lie." Marcus laughed initially, but his expression changed as I walked him through the documents. The dual accounting systems, the shell companies, the forged death certificates. With each piece of evidence, I watched his face transform from disbelief to confusion to devastating realization. "This cannot be real," he whispered, holding Dad's final note about confronting Mom. "She would not. Dad died of a heart attack. The doctors confirmed it." "Marcus, look at the timeline. Dad was threatening to expose her theft, and 2 weeks later he had a sudden cardiac event. Detective Morrison is requesting an autopsy review." The moment that sealed Marcus's alliance with me came when I showed him the real estate records. Mom owned 4 luxury properties that she had never mentioned to either of us, all purchased with stolen money, while she convinced us that the family business was struggling. "She made me feel guilty about every penny I spent," Marcus said, his voice breaking. "She told me I needed to be responsible because the business was barely profitable. Meanwhile, she owns a beach house in Malibu that cost more than most people make in a lifetime." But Marcus brought something to our alliance that I had not anticipated: insider access to Mom's business operations. As her designated heir, he had administrative access to many of her computer systems and knew her daily routines better than anyone. "Scarlett, if Detective Morrison needs additional evidence, I can help gather it. Mom has a safe in her home office that I know the combination to. She also keeps backup files on a separate server that she thinks I do not know about." Our second major ally emerged when Detective Morrison introduced us to Agent Rebecca Torres from the FBI's White-Collar Crime Division. Agent Torres explained that Mom's fraud scheme had crossed state lines through her various shell companies and real estate purchases, making it a federal case with much more serious penalties. "Your mother is looking at 25 to 30 years in federal prison if convicted on all charges," Agent Torres informed us during a strategy meeting. "But what makes this case especially compelling is the family violence component. If we can prove she contributed to your father's death, this becomes a murder investigation." Agent Torres also revealed that they had been monitoring Mom's financial activities for the past month and discovered that she was actively moving money offshore, suggesting she might be planning to flee the country. "We need to accelerate our timeline," Agent Torres said. "Your mother has transferred over $200,000 to accounts in the Cayman Islands in the past 3 weeks. She may be preparing to disappear." This revelation led to our third crucial alliance: Patricia's boyfriend, David Kim, who turned out to be a forensic accountant with experience in international financial crimes. David volunteered to help trace the offshore transfers and identify additional hidden assets that could be recovered for restitution. "Margaret's offshore strategy is actually helping our case," David explained during one of our evening strategy sessions. "Every international transfer creates a digital trail that is almost impossible to erase. She thinks she is being clever, but she is actually providing us with additional evidence of conscious guilt." However, our growing alliance faced its first major test when Mom became suspicious of Marcus's behavior. She noticed that he was asking more questions about the business finances and spending time away from home without explanation. "Marcus, you have been distant lately," Mom said during a family dinner that felt like walking through a minefield. "I hope you are not letting your sister fill your head with nonsense about our business operations." The tension in that moment was unbearable. Marcus and I exchanged glances across the dinner table, both of us knowing that Mom was fishing for information about what we might have discovered. I have just been thinking about expansion strategies, Marcus replied carefully. I want to make sure I understand all aspects of our financial position before I take over operations. Mom's eyes narrowed slightly. Our financial position is exactly what I have always told you. Modest but stable. Your sister has always been prone to dramatic theories about money. I hope you are not taking her seriously. After that dinner, we knew we were running out of time. Mom was becoming suspicious, and if she discovered our investigation before law enforcement was ready to act, she could destroy evidence or flee the country with the remaining stolen funds. Agent Torres made the decision to move forward with executing search warrants and freezing Mom's assets within 1 week. We have enough evidence to proceed, and waiting longer poses too much risk of evidence destruction or flight. Our alliance had grown to include Detective Morrison, Agent Torres, Patricia, David Marcus, and myself. Each person brought unique skills and access that would be crucial for ensuring that Mom faced consequences for her decades of criminal activity. But as we prepared for the final confrontation, I could not shake the feeling that Mom had one more surprise waiting for us. The woman who had spent 25 years successfully hiding a massive criminal enterprise was not going to go down without a fight. And as I was about to learn, her next move would test our alliance in ways none of us had anticipated. Just 48 hours before the FBI was scheduled to execute search warrants and freeze Mom's assets, our carefully constructed alliance suffered a devastating betrayal that nearly destroyed everything we had worked to build. It started with a phone call from Agent Torres at 6 in the morning. Her voice was tense and urgent. "Scarlett, we have a problem. Your mother has been tipped off about the investigation. She spent yesterday moving additional money offshore and shredding documents in her office. Someone in our circle warned her." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What do you mean, someone warned her? How do you know?" "We had surveillance on her office building. Yesterday evening, she was observed loading multiple boxes of documents into her car and driving directly to a document destruction service. She also made several calls to international banks. This level of evidence destruction suggests she knows exactly what we are looking for." My mind raced through the possibilities. Our alliance included Detective Morrison, Agent Torres, Patricia, David Marcus, and myself. Who among this trusted group would betray us? The answer came 3 hours later when Marcus called me, his voice breaking with emotion. "Scarlett, I did something terrible. I think I ruined everything." "Marcus, what are you talking about?" 2 days ago, Mom confronted me directly about my behavior. She said she knew I was hiding something from her, and that if I did not tell her the truth, she would cut me out of the family business entirely and leave me with nothing. I panicked, Scarlett. I told her about Patricia's inheritance and the investigation. The betrayal felt like a knife twisting in my chest. After everything we had discovered, after all the evidence we had gathered, my own brother had chosen Mom's manipulation over justice for our family. "Marcus, do you understand what you have done? She is destroying evidence as we speak. Dad may have been murdered, and you just helped his killer escape consequences." "I know, and I hate myself for it. But Scarlett, you do not understand the pressure she put on me. She threatened to destroy my entire future, everything I have worked for my whole life." "Everything you worked for was built on stolen money and lies. Patricia has been struggling for 25 years because of money that was rightfully hers, but the damage was already done." Agent Torres confirmed that Mom's evidence destruction had been systematic and thorough. While we still had the copies I had made of the original documents, many of the supporting financial records that would have strengthened our criminal case were now gone. "We can still proceed with charges," Agent Torres explained during an emergency meeting with our remaining allies. "But Marcus's betrayal has significantly weakened our position. Your mother's defense team will argue that the evidence was obtained improperly and that the investigation was compromised by family bias." Patricia was devastated by the news. 25 years of financial struggle, believing her parents had left nothing behind. and now the chance for justice was slipping away because of family loyalty to the very person who had stolen her inheritance. I should have known better than to trust that family dynamics could be overcome by evidence, Patricia said bitterly. Margaret has had 30 years to perfect her manipulation of Marcus. Why did I think a few weeks of truth would compete with a lifetime of conditioning? The betrayal had consequences beyond just the criminal case. Mom's awareness of our investigation meant she could now take proactive steps to protect herself and potentially retaliate against those of us who had exposed her crimes. David discovered that Mom had filed legal papers attempting to gain emergency control of Patricia's art business, claiming that Patricia was mentally unstable and making false accusations against family members. She was using the legal system to attack Patricia's livelihood while simultaneously destroying evidence of her own crimes. This is classic behavior from someone who has been manipulating family dynamics for decades, David explained. Margaret is not just defending herself anymore. She is going on the offensive to destroy anyone who threatens her control. The most devastating blow came when Marcus called another family meeting, this time with Mom present. I knew it was a trap, but I also knew that avoiding it would look like an admission of guilt to the rest of our extended family. The meeting took place at Mom's house in the same dining room where she had humiliated me at my graduation dinner. But now the power dynamics had shifted dramatically. Mom sat at the head of the table looking confident and in control, while Marcus sat beside her, looking ashamed but defiant. Scarlett, I understand you have been spreading some very serious accusations about me. Mom began, her voice calm but menacing. I want to give you an opportunity to explain yourself before I decide how to respond to this betrayal of family trust. Everything I discovered is documented and true, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. You stole Patricia's inheritance, you built your business empire on fraud, and you may have contributed to Dad's death. Mom's laugh was cold and calculating. Patricia was always mentally unstable, even as children. Her claims about inheritance are fantasies created by someone who cannot accept responsibility for her own life failures. As for your father's death, how dare you suggest I was involved in his heart attack? He died because he was overweight and stressed about business pressures. But then Mom played her final card. Marcus has told me everything about your little investigation. I know you involved outside parties and made false reports to law enforcement. What you have done is called harassment and defamation, and I will be pressing charges against you personally. The meeting ended with Mom demanding that I apologize publicly for my accusations and cease all contact with Patricia or face both criminal charges and complete excommunication from the family. Walking out of that house, I realized that Marcus's betrayal had not just damaged our criminal case. It had given Mom the opportunity to turn the narrative around, completely positioning herself as the victim of false accusations while painting me as an unstable daughter seeking attention through dramatic lies. Our alliance was broken, our evidence was compromised, and Mom was now actively using the legal system to attack us. It seemed like 25 years of sophisticated fraud were going to remain unpunished. And worse, the victims were being re-victimized by the very system that was supposed to protect them. Just when it seemed like Mom had successfully destroyed our case and turned the tables against us, an unexpected ally emerged who would not only salvage our investigation, but provide the missing piece that would make her criminal conviction inevitable. The breakthrough came from Dad's best friend and former business partner, Robert Mitchell, who had been living in retirement in Arizona. Robert contacted me 3 days after the disastrous family meeting, having heard through mutual family friends that there was some kind of investigation involving Mom's business practices. Scarlett, I have been waiting 20 years for someone in your family to ask the right questions about your mother's business activities, Robert said during our first phone conversation. Your father and I documented everything before he died, but we hid the evidence because Margaret threatened to destroy our families if we ever spoke out. Robert explained that he and Dad had been secretly investigating Mom's financial irregularities for 2 years before Dad's death. They had discovered not only the theft from Patricia's inheritance, but also systematic embezzlement from their business clients' identity theft, involving elderly customers and tax fraud spanning multiple decades. Your father was planning to expose everything after Marcus graduated college. He wanted to give Margaret one final chance to confess and make restitution voluntarily. But then he died suddenly, and I was too scared to come forward alone. What made Robert's testimony crucial was that he had evidence that even Mom's recent document destruction could not eliminate. Dad had created multiple backup copies of all financial records and hidden them in a safety deposit box that only Robert knew about. Your father suspected that Margaret might try to destroy evidence if she felt threatened, so we created an insurance policy. Every bank statement, every forged document, every suspicious transaction from 1998 to 2015 is documented and stored in that safety deposit box. But Robert's most explosive revelation was about Dad's death. He had security camera footage from his own business office showing Dad's final meeting with Mom just hours before his fatal heart attack. Your father called me that night and said Margaret had threatened him directly. She told him that if he exposed her crimes, she would make sure he lost everything, including his relationship with you children. The stress from that confrontation is what triggered his cardiac event. She might not have poisoned him, but she definitely caused his death through intimidation and threats. Agent Torres was skeptical initially, but when Robert provided the safety deposit box key and signed affidavits about his conversations with Dad, the entire investigation was revived with devastating new evidence. "This changes everything," Agent Torres confirmed after reviewing Dad's hidden documentation. "We now have evidence of conspiracy, witness intimidation, and financial crimes spanning 3 decades. Marcus's betrayal actually became irrelevant because we have documentation that predates anything he could have warned your mother about." The safety deposit box contained over 800 pages of financial records that Dad and Robert had meticulously copied and organized. Bank statements showing systematic theft from client accounts, forged signatures on legal documents, and correspondence proving that Mom had been planning to frame Patricia as mentally unstable if anyone ever questioned the inheritance theft. But the most damning evidence was a series of recorded phone conversations that Dad had made during his final weeks, including his last confrontation with Mom, where she explicitly threatened to make his life hell if he interfered with her business operations. Robert's decision to come forward also triggered a cascade of additional witnesses. Other family friends who had suspected Mom's criminal activities for years suddenly felt safe to share their own evidence and observations. Eleanor Hartwell, Mom's former business partner, who had been forced out of the company in 2008, provided evidence that Mom had stolen client lists and intellectual property when their partnership dissolved. Tom Bradley, our family accountant who had resigned suddenly in 2012, revealed that Mom had pressured him to falsify tax documents and threatened his professional license when he refused. Most importantly, Dr. Sarah Patel, Dad's cardiologist, came forward with medical records showing that Dad's heart condition was not severe enough to cause sudden death under normal circumstances. The timing of his cardiac event, just hours after a highly stressful confrontation with Mom, supported the theory that emotional trauma had triggered his fatal attack. We now have enough evidence to pursue murder charges in addition to the financial crimes, Agent Torres informed our reconstructed alliance. Your mother used psychological warfare and direct threats to cause your father's death, and we can prove it. But Robert brought something even more valuable than evidence. He brought strategic expertise. As Dad's former business partner, he understood Mom's psychological patterns and could predict her likely responses to different types of legal pressure. Margaret's weakness is her need to control the narrative, Robert explained during one of our planning sessions. She cannot resist the urge to over-explain and justify her actions when she feels threatened. If we approach the final confrontation correctly, she will incriminate herself further. Robert's strategy was to force Mom into a position where she would have to choose between admitting to the financial crimes or defending actions that would expose her involvement in Dad's death. Either choice would result in serious criminal consequences, but her psychological profile suggested she would choose the option that allowed her to maintain some illusion of moral superiority. Margaret has spent 30 years convincing herself that her actions were justified because she was protecting family interests, Robert said. She will try to frame her theft as responsible financial management and her threats against your father as necessary business decisions. That mindset will be her downfall. With Robert's evidence and strategic insight, our alliance was not just restored, but stronger than before. We now had documentation that could not be destroyed. Witnesses who were beyond Mom's ability to intimidate, and a clear path toward criminal convictions that would ensure justice for Dad Patricia and all of Mom's other victims. The final confrontation was scheduled for the following week, but this time we would be entering it with overwhelming evidence and the confidence that came from knowing we held all the cards. Mom's 25-year reign of family manipulation and financial terrorism was about to come to a devastating end. The final takedown of Mom's criminal empire happened on a Wednesday morning in late September, exactly 6 months after my graduation dinner humiliation. But instead of the quiet family destruction I had originally envisioned, it became a coordinated law enforcement operation that exposed crimes far beyond anything our family had imagined. Agent Torres executed simultaneous search warrants on Mom's home office business headquarters and all 4 of her secret real estate properties. The coordinated raids yielded over 12 boxes of evidence that Mom had not been able to destroy, including backup computer drives hidden in her Malibu beach house and financial documents stored in a concealed safe at the mountain cabin. But the moment that defined everything came when Mom was arrested at her office in front of her employees and several major clients. I was not there to witness it personally, but Robert described the scene with a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. Margaret tried to maintain her dignified business owner persona even as they were putting handcuffs on her, Robert told me. She kept insisting that this was all a misunderstanding caused by disgruntled family members. But when Agent Torres read the charges, including conspiracy to commit murder in your father's death, her composure finally cracked. The criminal charges were extensive grand theft, embezzlement, identity theft, tax fraud, money laundering conspiracy, and voluntary manslaughter in connection with Dad's death. With Robert's evidence and the additional witnesses who came forward, prosecutors were confident they could secure convictions on all counts. Mom's first instinct was to try to manipulate Marcus into supporting her defense, but the documented evidence of her crimes had finally broken through her psychological hold on him. When she called him from jail seeking bail money, Marcus hung up on her. I realized that everything good in my life was built on money she stole from Patricia and other people, Marcus told me during one of our reconciliation conversations. I cannot be part of that anymore, even if it means starting over with nothing. The financial restitution process revealed the true scope of Mom's theft. Beyond Patricia's $500,000 inheritance, investigators discovered that she had stolen over $1.2 million from business clients, evaded nearly $400,000 in taxes, and illegally claimed insurance benefits worth another $300,000. Patricia's emotional journey through the restitution process was remarkable to witness. 25 years of believing her parents had died broke struggling as an artist while her sister lived in luxury, suddenly transformed into financial security and validation that her family had indeed loved and provided for her. It is not really about the money, Patricia told me as we sat in her Portland art studio, now expanded into a proper gallery space. It is about knowing that my parents wanted me to be secure and that their love was real. Margaret stole that knowledge from me for decades, but the most meaningful aspect of our victory was the family healing that emerged from the wreckage of Mom's lies. Marcus and I rebuilt our sibling relationship based on honesty rather than competition for parental approval. Patricia became the aunt I had never known I needed, offering wisdom and creative perspective that enriched my life immeasurably. Robert stepped into the father figure role that Dad's death had left vacant, sharing stories about Dad's true character that Mom had hidden from us. Through Robert, I learned that Dad had been planning to establish a college scholarship fund, with Patricia's inheritance money wanting to honor his sister-in-law's artistic talents by supporting other struggling artists. We decided to move forward with Dad's scholarship plan, using the recovered inheritance money to create an endowment that would provide financial assistance to artists facing family rejection or financial hardship. The first recipient was a young painter whose family had disowned her for pursuing art instead of traditional business careers. Mom's sentencing hearing provided closure that I had not expected. She was sentenced to 28 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole for the first 15 years. At 62 years old, this effectively meant she would spend the rest of her productive life incarcerated. But what struck me most was her final statement to the court. Even facing decades in prison, she could not bring herself to acknowledge the pain she had caused, or take responsibility for destroying our family through her crimes. I made some poor financial decisions, she told the judge, but everything I did was motivated by love for my children and desire to provide them with security. I hope someday they will understand that and forgive me. That statement confirmed what Robert had predicted about her psychological inability to face the reality of her actions. Even confronted with overwhelming evidence and devastating consequences, she still framed herself as a misunderstood mother, rather than a calculating criminal who had destroyed multiple lives through decades of systematic fraud. The business consulting company was dissolved and its assets liquidated to provide additional restitution to victims. Marcus and I used our portions of the recovered money to start our own ethical consulting firm, specializing in helping family businesses implement transparent financial practices and conflict resolution systems. Our chosen family now includes Patricia, Robert, David, Marcus, and several of the friends who supported us through the investigation and trial. We celebrate holidays together, make major decisions collaboratively, and prioritize honesty and mutual support over traditional family hierarchy. The most unexpected outcome of our family justice story has been the sense of peace that comes from living without secrets or manipulation. For the first time in my life, I understand what healthy family relationships actually look like, and I never want to go back to the toxic dynamics that Mom created through her lies and crimes. Looking back on that graduation dinner humiliation that started this entire journey, I realized that Mom's cruelty was actually the catalyst for exposing her decades of criminal activity. Her need to maintain power over me led to the investigation that ultimately brought justice for Dad, Patricia, and all of her other victims. Now, I want to hear from you about family karma and justice. Have you ever discovered that someone you trusted was living a completely different reality behind closed doors? How do you think families should handle it when they discover serious crimes within their own circle? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I love reading your perspectives on these complex family situations. If this story of family revenge and justice served resonated with you, smash that like button and hit subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming family manipulation and finding your chosen family. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear that. Sometimes, the people who hurt us most are the ones who end up facing the consequences they created for themselves. Thank you for joining me on this journey from graduation dinner humiliation to criminal justice and family healing. Remember that the truth always finds a way to surface, and sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the family you were born into. Until next time, keep believing that justice and healing are always possible, even in the most broken family situations.